the newer investors are going to probably get the most out of it, because the problem I find is that when people have gotten into their habits of trading, it's harder to break those bad habits. Trader or investor that starts is going to make mistakes. It's just natural. We're dealing with shark-infested waters, meaning that there's algorithms, there's institutions, there's really good traders in there. And so you have to get to that point of being able to compete and ultimately beat them. And it takes a lot of mistakes. And the goal is that through these educational courses, I've revealed my mistakes and then how I've learned, and basically all the tidbits of knowledge, from discipline to emotional control to human psychology to charting, that basically puts us in a position to skip and bypass a lot of the mistakes most people will make and get to profitability as quickly as possible. So I think the courses, right, there's 3 courses. There's the initial one, strategies of a winning trader, then setups of a winning trader, and secrets of a winning trader. And the best thing about it is that each one delves into trading, psychology, and discipline all in each of them, right? But they get more advanced as you go through. So for instance, in the initial course, we're going to be dealing with more of getting your mind right. How do you get yourself as an individual in a disciplined state of mind to be able to go into the markets and not get swayed by social media influencers pumping and getting you to go long at highs, or freaking out at lows and thinking it's going to zero. Those type of things, which are normal pitfalls of all investors, those are the ones we want to focus on and kind of get you up to speed on. Then you take it one step further into looking at charts and saying, okay, what individual metrics do I put on my chart? How do I keep it simple, but also get the best bang for my buck in terms of profitable setups and kind of technical indicators to use? And then we go into things like, all right, well, what is a bottoming tail? What is a topping tail? What is a reversal candle, an engulfing candle? Everything that I use in that first course is kind of divulged there. The second course is the setups. So what kind of setups am I using when I scan my charts? Like, where do I look for these trades to appear? How do I analyze risk reward? And then ultimately, how do I know if a pattern is playing out or if it fails, right? Because failure, I mean, this is the thing that no one wants to talk about. You go online and like everyone's a winner, everyone's making lots of money, but in reality, that's not true. Even if you get it to an 80% success rate, which is what I'm able to achieve in all my trading, that still means 2 out of every 10 times I'm losing. So how do you know it's lost? How do you know when your thesis has failed? What in the chart is telling you that, so that you can cut it immediately and ultimately lose as little as possible? And so we go into all these setups and everything like that to kind of complete the segment of strategies or setups of a winning trader. And then the last course is my favorite, and this is the one where I divulge like all my secrets. So things like the confirmation signal, time counts, understanding cycle analysis, and how you have to kind of look at various factors within the world and what's going on in the world to understand the psychology of the markets. And I know it sounds super complex, but I lay it out in these videos where it's not complex. I teach it so simply that anyone can find it and learn it and master it. And ultimately you walk away from these 3 courses. And again, I think it's almost 20 hours of content. Hope you guys can handle 20 hours of me talking. But the bottom line is, it is a point where when you're done with it, you're on your road. You've leapfrogged a lot of those beginning troublesome parts of an investor or trader, and you should be getting to that profitability point just from taking these courses. And I think that's the best thing. Probably in my early career. Like I said, I've made almost every mistake in the book. I've gone long when I meant to go short. I've gone short when I've meant to go long. Some of my worst mistakes are when, I still remember this vividly. I think in my early years, I had gone long U.S. steel going into earnings. And after the bell, it shot up massively. Well, I was like, all right, you know how fast you have to react. I'm like trying to punch in the buttons to sell and take I think I was up like 20K at this point. It was like some ridiculous, stupid bet I made back then. But instead, so I sold it, right? And then I'm looking and I'm like, that's weird. It's not vanishing out of my account. Well, I had, instead of 10,000 shares, I had doubled it up to 20,000 shares. And then I was even more furious to try to enter the sell order, because I was freaking out if it came down how fast I would end up losing a lot of money. Because on earnings, this is the tricky thing, is when you're playing earnings, it can go up real fast, but it can go down real fast too. So, I mean, it's all about just doing your best and learning and learning from your mistakes. I purposely formulated them so that it's a group, right? If you're a brand new investor, you're going to get so much out of it. And honestly, weirdly enough, the newer investors are going to probably get the most out of it, because the problem I find is that when people have gotten into their habits of trading, it's harder to break those bad habits, right? So someone that's brand new that doesn't know anything, they're going to just absorb this and say, oh, this is the way it's done, versus fighting that mentality of saying, oh, well, I'm getting swayed by all these Twitter influencers, right? So I think your beginners all the way to your advanced. I mean, the advanced knowledge in there is stuff that a lot of institutions don't even know this stuff. And it's there for everyone to absorb and learn. And what's amazing is, and you'll see this in the third course, which is my favorite because it's like the stuff that I've developed, but I'll go through these charts in the course and you'll hear me get giddy because I'm like, but then look at this and see how this you do this time count and it fits up perfectly with this. And then, it's just like so exciting stuff to discover. And you really will walk away with like this mentality of saying, oh my goodness, I now have this massive repertoire of assets that I can use to make money on a consistent basis. And not only in crypto, but in stocks, in commodities, in Forex, all of that stuff. Everything I teach is so universal that you don't have to be like, oh, I'm only a crypto trader. Well, if this works in stocks, why not trade stocks and just make more money? I think you have to really just reset. Because it's not about, in a bull market, and we've seen so many bull markets in stocks and in crypto, it's about thinking that, oh, this is the easiest thing in the world. Look at my account just go up exponentially. And it's not like that. And if you're going to be a trader that makes money in bull and bear markets and not losing all your money when the bull market's over, you have to learn how to read charts. People think I'm crazy when I say this, but the charts are literally the purest truth that we will ever find. Because if you listen to someone saying something, there could be a bias there. If you go to Twitter, there's a bias. Even if you go to news, right, there's a bias. But the charts don't lie. It's telling you what is there. I always say that a chart is like a book in a foreign language, right? So let's say it's, Chinese for me. I don't know how to read Chinese. But when you learn how to read the charts, all of a sudden you can start reading it, and the charts will tell you what to do, or at least what the most high probable outcome will be. And that's everything, right? I think the problem with fundamental analysis is that it makes sense in certain markets, and then in other markets, it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't is because markets are ruled by two things: greed and fear, right? We saw greed on the way up and then fear and panic on the way down. And so you look at like the PE of a stock, right? And you say, oh, well, in this market, it's a 40 PE. Well, guess what? Now we're in a bear market and it's now a 20 PE. So how did that make sense, right? But the charts will tell you, when you look at a chart and it's gone vertical and it's gone up 100% or 200%, there's something missing there. There's a certain type of market environment that's causing that, and you never want to be someone that's buying up at those levels. So the technicals will tell you that. The greatest example recently was Exxon, right? Oil was up above $120. Exxon was like nearing all-time highs, and everyone was bullish. The media was saying $150, $200 a barrel, and I'm looking at the Exxon chart, and it's like it's gone vertical. So it's extended, the metrics, the RSI, all that stuff is extended. And then it's at a double top from 2014. And if you're a technician, you're like, wait a minute, that's a short. Double tops you short. And so I shorted it. And then obviously we've seen, oil come all the way back down. Learned all these methods are proof that that's not the case. These algos are trading on very, very micro time frames. And in fact, a lot of times the algos are wrong, right? They'll react based on one news headline, and they'll all of a sudden sell the market. And then all of a sudden you see the market roar back, right? And these algos are on the wrong side. So it's not. It's absolutely, technical analysis works because it's trading humans and human emotion, and not trading humans, right? We understand we're trading human emotion, but the bottom line is, yes, it still works. And in my opinion, it's always going to work because humans don't change. So if you go back to ancient Egypt, you could trade the same way if you could chart out anything. And I often say, if you could chart like rocks, right, or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you could just make a market in anything, the charts are going to be the same thing. Double tops will be double tops, double bottoms, gap fills, reversal candles, all that stuff, because you're just trading people. Wow. Perfect time. Probably there's no perfect time, right? I mean, I think if you're 70 years old and you're retired, that's the perfect time. If you're 20 and you're just like thinking about how I'm going to invest the beginning of my 401k, I think that's the perfect time. But the key is do it with a game plan, right? It's doing it with more than just, hey, I saw Kramer say this, or, oh, I saw people on Twitter pumping this, so I'm going to jump on the long side. Like, you're putting, this is what always drives me nuts, is people put their hard-earned money that they literally worked so hard to make, and sometimes they just throw it in something, and they're like, oh, well, why did I lose? Well, you just, you're just following random people that you don't know if they're even good at what they do. So you have to really say to yourself, I'm going to become advanced and know what I'm doing, and then it will work out. And we discussed this before about, you have a brain surgeon that, you can't just be like, oh, I watched this video on brain surgery. Can I operate on your brain now, right? I mean, they go to years and years of school, rack up tons and tons of debt, and then they still have a grueling job of high intensity stress versus a trader where if you put in less money to learn and you actually get a good education, you can make more money with more freedom, and you could travel the world and still trade. And I've always said, like, you could be 95 years old and laying on your deathbed, right? And if your finger works for a mouse, you could be like, oh, I need $1,000 today. Click, click. Okay, I made $1,000. It's like the greatest freedom in the whole world to learn how to invest and trade. And you'll never be in a position where you don't feel financially secure when you learn how to trade, because you can always go to the markets, and the markets are it's almost like having a Federal Reserve printing press. I think this is the key. And listen, I want to be really truthful about it and honest about it, is that you watch these things and it will blow your mind. But just like a brain surgeon can't watch a video and do brain surgery, it takes practice. And the one thing, so this is the one thing too about this. So the discipline that I discuss in these videos, as well as the emotional control and human psychology, like, you will literally be able to start charting your own life. And what I mean by that is you'll start looking at your life in terms of yeah, it is kind of deep, but it's weirdly true, where you're like, okay, I've been struggling and like I can't get this promotion, and well, what you're really doing is you're bull flagging, right? You're going sideways, you're stuck in your life, and then you'll have a breakout, which is exactly what charts do. To the upside, you get that promotion, all of a sudden everything's coming up roses, and you can look at your life in a weird way like that. And